Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Bhagavadgita as it is, written by the founder of ISKCON, is one of the widely studied translations of the Bhagavad-Gita today. As an ISKCON-inspired Smarta Brahmana youth, I have been fascinated by the writings of Srila Prabhupada in my earlier years. It is a well-known fact that Prabhupada had been spreading hatred for Adi Shankara Bhagavad-Pada and his followers all throughout his lifetime, and this is evident in all of his books. He keeps warning his disciples and followers against the philosophy of Bhagavad-Pada and against associating with the Mayavadis of every lineage on earth. This is how they refer to us. They keep calling us as Mayavadis. As followers of Sri Adi Shankara Bhagavad-Pada, we cannot tolerate someone who debases our gurus and acharyas. It is our duty to respond to Prabhupada, his gurus, his god brothers and disciples who have been spreading a lot of hatred for our sampradaya in the world today. Among the many different threats that we face today, the Smarta community is facing a concerted effort by ISKCON, the motives and goals of whom are largely ignored by all of us today. And this is not just the Smarta community. ISKCON is also a threat to the Sri Vaishnava community today, the Madhva community, and the followers of different traditions of Sanatana Dharma. So there is both good and bad in ISKCON. And here is my response, a Mayavadi's response to Prabhupada's Bhagavad Gita as it is. I am Dr. Gokula Krishna from Sri Rangam. In the beginning, Prabhupada makes false claims saying, our Krishna consciousness movement is genuine, historically authorized, natural and transcendental due to its being based on Bhagavad Gita as it is. It is gradually becoming the most popular movement in the entire world, especially amongst the younger generation. It is becoming more and more interesting to the older generation also. Older gentlemen are becoming interested, so much so that the fathers and grandfathers of my disciples are encouraging us by becoming life members of our great society, the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. In Los Angeles, many fathers and mothers used to come to see me, express their feelings of gratitude for my leading the Krishna Consciousness movement throughout the entire world. Some of them said that it is greatly fortunate for the Americans that I have started the Krishna Consciousness movement in America. But actually, the original father of this movement is the Lord himself. Since it was started a very long time ago, but is coming down to human society by disciplic succession. If I have any credit in this connection, it does not belong to me personally, but it is due to my eternal spiritual master, his divine grace, Om Vishnupada Paramahamsa Parivrajakacharya, 108, Srimad Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaja Prabhupada. To make themselves appear genuine, the Gaudiya Vaishnavas have been claiming that they are a branch of the Madhva Sampradaya. If this statement is true, why is it that the Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya doesn't follow the Siddhanta of Madhvacharya? The tenets of Madhva Sampradaya and the tenets of Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya are poles apart from each other. There are many differences in the Siddhanta of both the Sampradayas. So how are we to believe Prabhupada's words that the Krishna consciousness movement is genuine? How are we to believe that it is historically authorized? Is it not a deviation from the Madhva Sampradaya when most of its Siddhanta is being ignored and rejected? In this series of videos, we will be examining the genuineness of this unnatural and materialistic movement. ISKCON has a very huge following by the grace of Kalipurusha. The words of Srimad Bhagavatam must be remembered in this connection. Nishamukheshu khadyotaha tamasa bhanti nagrahaha yathapapena pashandaha nahi vedah kalau yuge. Srimad Bhagavatam, 10th Canto, Chapter 20, Shloka 8. So it means, in the evening twilight of the rainy season, the glowworms and not the stars shine forth as a result of darkness, just as in Kali Yuga, the heretic doctrines and not the Vedas shine forth as a result of sins. ISKCON is one such cult that has risen to eminence as a result of the power of Kalipurusha. Their Guru Parampara has many flaws in it since the time of its inception. The origin of it in the Madhva Sampradaya, which they claim, is fallacious. In the name of presenting the Bhagavadgita as it is, Prabhupada has highly distorted the true teachings of Lord Shri Krishna, who is a personal manifestation of the Supreme Impersonal Brahman. While quoting the shloka, Manmana Bhava Madbhaktaha Madhyaji Mam Namaskuru in the preface, he makes an unwanted and hateful comment on Shankara Bhagavatpada's Sampradaya by saying, generally, the so-called scholars, politicians, philosophers and swamis, without perfect knowledge of Krishna, try to banish or kill Krishna when writing commentary on Bhagavadgita. Such unauthorized commentary upon Bhagavadgita is known as Mayavada Bhashya, and Lord Chaitanya has warned us about these unauthorized men. Lord Chaitanya clearly says that anyone who tries to understand Bhagavadgita from the Mayavadi point of view will commit a great blunder. The result of such a blunder will be that the misguided student of Bhagavad Gita will certainly be bewildered on the path of spiritual guidance and will not be able to go back home, back to Godhead. To speak about the acharyas of any of the Prachina Sampradayas on par with politicians and mundane philosophers is a great offense on the part of Swami Prabhupada. Swami Prabhupada was the founder of a modern Sampradaya, and what was his stature and what was the stature of those Shishtas who followed Varnashrama Dharma in its entirety with a lot of hurdles in their lives in modern day society? The Prachina Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya itself is a deviant sect of the Madhva Sampradaya, and the Gaudiya Math and ISKCON are a further deviation from the Prachina Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati and all his disciples have created a tradition that is an apasampradaya of the mainstream Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya. When this is the case, Prabhupada cannot describe our Acharya's Bhashyam as some unauthorized Mayavada Bhashya. And how are we to believe the claim of Chaitanya Charitamritam's author that Mahaprabhu made such a rude comment on Bhagavatpada's Bhashyam? And it is by rejecting the Prachina Sampradayas and taking shelter of modern cults like ISKCON that a student of Bhagavad Gita gets bewildered on the path of spiritual guidance. A neophyte devotee in ISKCON who comes from a traditional Smarta Brahmana family is generally someone who has had no proper guidance on dharma at home or in the society. And this is not just for the Smarta Brahmana communities alone. This is for any person who comes from any other Sampradaya. We see a lot of Sri Vaishnavas going and joining ISKCON. We see Madhvas joining ISKCON. We see Rajputs joining ISKCON. So we see many people, many native Indians following many Sampradayas, coming from many different Varnas, joining ISKCON. Pure Vaidika Dharma is at very low ebb everywhere due to the powerful influence of Kali Yuga. Those Smartas who get introduced to Sanatana Dharma through ISKCON are of two types. Number one, devotees who get completely absorbed into this pseudo-Vedic cult after giving up the sacred dharma taught and practiced by their ancestors since time immemorial. And number two, devotees who take guidance from ISKCON in some aspects of dharma, then understand the limitations and fallacies of such modern day cult and come back home, back to Godhead, Sri Adi Shankara Bhagavatpada. And this applies to people following other sampradayas as well, to the Sri Vaishnavas, the Madhvas, and everybody else. Association with ISKCON has both advantages and disadvantages for all native Indian Hindus. For the Westerners and people living in other foreign countries, the association of ISKCON is very good. ISKCON introduces such people to Vedic culture, and many people take to Krishna Bhakti. But this is not the same with native Indian Hindus. These are the advantages for both the groups of Smartas from the association of ISKCON. Number one, a strong clarity on Pramanam or means of knowing the Supreme. Prabhupada's way of explaining Pramanam in a logical and simple to understand language is something that is highly commendable. Anyone who studies the books of Prabhupada will get a strong faith that scriptures like Bhagavadgita and Srimad Bhagavatam are the highest pramanam or valid means of knowing the ultimate truth. As a result of this, a follower of ISKCON develops genuine faith and focus on some aspects of the Shastras and the Itihasa Puranas. Number two, a strong clarity on Prameyam, that is, the knowable. His way of explaining Prameyam to the layman is so impressive that lakhs of people worldwide believe that Lord Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. As a result of this, a follower of ISKCON develops Bhava Bhakti and Shraddha in chanting the holy names of the Lord and knowing about His Gunas, Mahimas and Vibhutis. Number three, a strong faith in approaching a bona fide Vedic Sampradaya and practicing Bhakti according to the teachings of the Acharyas of that particular lineage. That is the reason ISKCON devotees tenaciously adhere to the Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya. Number four, a strong Viveka as to who should be accepted as an Avatara Purusha and who shouldn't be. Number five, a strong Shraddha in following the regulative principles of life like not eating onion and garlic, not eating meat, not drinking coffee and tea, and so on. Disadvantages. There are many disadvantages for both the groups of Smartas from the association of ISKCON. And this is not just for the Smartas, as I said earlier. It applies for the Sri Vaishnavas and Madhvas as well. Number one, although Prabhupada has given a strong clarity on Pramanam or the means of knowing the Supreme, it is very shallow and not complete. Although Srimad Bhagavatam is considered as one of the authoritative Pauranika literature, it is not the highest Pramanam as ISKCON and their Gaudiya Vaishnava predecessors claim. Although one may develop genuine faith and focus on some aspects of the Shastras and the Itihasa Puranas through the association of ISKCON, it is not a holistic approach towards understanding Sanatana Dharma. Even the Sri Vaishnavas and Madhvas do not declare that Srimad Bhagavatam is superior to the Shrutis and Smritis. In this way, the whole of Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya deviates from the tenets of Madhva Sampradaya, which they claim to be their Sampradaya's parent Sampradaya. ISKCON in turn is highly deviant of the traditional Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya. Number 2. Although Prabhupada has given a strong clarity on Prameyam or the knowable, what his Acharyas have taught goes against the conclusions of all the Shastras. That Lord Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead from whom all other forms of Lord Vishnu manifest is completely wrong. Even the Sri Vaishnavas and Madhvas have not made such statements. Madhvacharya argues against such a philosophy in his Mahabharata Tatparya Nirnayam as follows: Asatya svagato bhedaha Vishnoho. Trying to explain any difference from Lord Vishnu and any of his avatars, to speak of Taratamyam between any two forms of Lord Vishnu, between the Avayavas of Lord Vishnu, is not accepted by Madhvacharya. He says it is asatyam or false. That being the case, ISKCON's claim of Krishna being the Supreme Personality of Godhead is completely wrong. And number 3, taking shelter under a wrong cult that keeps making false claims of itself as the only genuine tradition of Sanatana Dharma. A Smartha rejecting the Sringeri or the Kanchi Shankaracharyas and accepting ISKCON Gurus. A Sri Vaishnava rejecting any of the Vadakalaya or Tenkalaya Acharyas and accepting ISKCON Gurus. And a Madhva rejecting any of their Acharyas and accepting ISKCON Gurus will never attain Shreyas. It is like sitting on a golden throne and begging for a piece of broken glass from someone. In the next video, I will be discussing about the authenticity about the Madhva origins of the Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya. Shri Haraye Namaha.